What's going on, everybody? My name is Jason and welcome to my channel. What we've got going on today is we have this 10-year-old Haro ZX24. It may be a little bit older than 10 years old, but the customer that brought this in, it was his bike whenever he was 15 years old, so that makes him 25 years old now. This bike holds a lot of fond memories to him, and he wants this thing brought back to life. He started working on it himself, and the left pedal on this was stuck, so he ended up cutting the crank arm off so that he could remove the cranks. Now, some of y'all might not know that on bicycles, the left pedal is reverse threaded. So if you're wanting to actually remove the pedal, you're supposed to move it in a clockwise rotation versus counterclockwise like normal. So it is a perfect opportunity here to upgrade this bike to 3-piece cranks. What we have is we actually have some nice Eastern chromoly 3-piece cranks. These are 175 millimeters, and they are a hardened steel, so they're going to hold up much better to this customer's 230-pound weight. We're also going to be installing some of these Black Ops sealed bearing mid or American bottom bracket bearings into this bike to really make it low maintenance, and well, it's just going to ride so much better once we do this. We're also going to be adjusting the rear hub on this because it's a little bit loose. Now, this bike is not in the best condition, but you know what? We're going to do our best to actually get this thing working 100% so that he can actually, relive some of the childhood memories. So let's go ahead and get started on this so that we can give the customer a call. The first thing that we need to do is we need to remove what's left of this bottom bracket in this frame. These cups are pressed in, and we're just knocking them out. Now we need to clean this bottom bracket area up, because while everything's out, we have much better access to make sure that we get everything looking clean. We're going to use a little bit of WD-40 to clean up and break down some of this grease. WD-40 does a really good job eating the old grease away. The next step is we're going to put a generous amount of grease into this bottom bracket area to help prevent corrosion and to allow the cups, the new cups, to install properly. Now that the frame has been greased and the cup has been greased, we're going to go ahead and press this one cup into the frame. We're going to be using our bearing press, and the reason why you want to press one in at a time is because if the cup starts going in crooked, the press is using the frame to help guide the bearing in straight. So we're going to press the bearing cup into the frame. Okay. Now, the thing to have done with this is what we should have done is we should have gotten this spacer and the two cups and go underneath and actually see if it makes contact. From the looks here, this is going to be too much. It's going to be too far in. So it looks like we're going to need to add like 2 spacers in the middle of this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab those so that we can get it all hooked up. So we found a spacer in the kit that looks like it's the exact width that we need. So we're going to go ahead and get our bearing press, and we're going to slide this through the cup and bearing. We're going to add the 2 spacers, and we're going to go ahead and press this in. All right, let's go ahead and press this cup in. And then now we're going to check the spacers on the inside, and they should be tight, no play, but the bearings should still turn. Now both cups are pressed in, and if you'll actually notice, the spacers on the inside of the cup there, they don't rattle around, and the bearing actually turns easily. That is perfect. Let's go ahead and get this cleaned up, and the next thing that we need to do is we need to remove the old sprocket from these damaged cranks. And we're going to do that with a special tool. We're going to be using this Park Tool HCW-5. That's the best thing to actually remove this race that sandwiches the sprocket onto the crank arm. And we're going to be doing this by turning this, let me see, this one is going to be counterclockwise. So lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. So I had to put it on the ground, and we've broken this loose. And we're going to use a little bit of WD-40 to clean this because we want it looking great on these brand new cranks. There's several spacers on the inside of the bottom bracket kit. Now on the drive side, you're going to be using this flat spacer, whereas on the non-drive side, it's got this nice tapered spacer, which it covers the bearing and it gives it a nice smooth transition into the crank. So this is the prettier washer which you want on the non-drive side. Alright, so now we want to grease the inside of the bearings and the spacers, and we want to put a nice thin coat of grease onto the spindle. Now this spindle, if you do everything properly, should slide right inside of the frame like so. And as you see, it still spins easily. So let's go ahead and install the spacers, the sprocket, and the cranks. We want to make sure that we do have plenty of grease on this spindle. If you put a little bit too much, that's okay. There's no such thing as too much. It's just going to make a little bit of a mess. We're going to install this aluminum spacer first. This actually is the largest or widest one that covers the bearing. And we're going to be actually using a special reducer. It's kind of like a top hat reducer. This is actually used whenever you've got an older sprocket with a one-piece crank to work with a three-piece spindle. If you'll notice, there's a lot of excessive play in this sprocket. So what we're going to do is this reducer actually takes up the slack. It fills up the hole here, allowing the sprocket to be a nice snug fit. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we grab the proper crank. This one is going to have an R on there for right, because the right side is the drive side. Also, if you'll notice, this does have the little mount to secure this sprocket to allow it to turn. The left side doesn't actually have that same thing, but there's normally an L or an R on these cranks, so just be sure to pay attention. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure there's plenty of grease on the inside of the crank arm splines here. Now, if the crank that you're installing has splines, you want to use grease. If it's a square or diamond shape spindle, that's normally a mountain bike type spindle, you do not want to grease those spindles. So we're going to actually install this sprocket here. We're going to line up the hole right here, and then we're going to install the special bolt located inside of this bag. It's going to be the shorter, fatter one here. So we're going to go ahead and put some grease on the threads here. You don't have to worry about grease on this as far as loosening up, because there's special blue Loctite on here to make sure that this bolt doesn't accidentally back out, and it's especially designed to work with grease. And we're going to go ahead and hand thread this in a little bit. Sometimes it interferes, the frame interferes, so you need to pull the crank out to allow the head of the bolt not to hit the frame itself. And we want to make sure that the crank arm clears the frame, which actually has no problem clearing the frame on this. We're going to make sure that these splines have plenty of grease on it as well. We're going to install the aluminum spacer that covers up the bearing quite nicely there. And I think we're going to add, from my experience, we're going to add 2 spacers to start with. We're going to grease the splines inside the crank arm. We're going to line up the crank here to make sure it's straight, and what I want to do is I want to push this crank arm in and make sure that it clears the frame about the same as the drive side. And there's a little bit more space on here. So I'm going to add one more spacer because there's more space on the drive side than the non-drive. So let's see how this looks. Okay, that looks a little bit more even. We're going to go ahead and tighten the spider bolt, or in this case, the chain wheel bolt. We're not going to make it super tight. We're just going to tighten it down a little bit because we may need to make some changes here shortly. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to want to put some grease or some anti-seize onto the threads of this crank bolt here. I'm using a little bit much here. And we're going to tighten this down, and you want to try to center the spindle as best as possible. The spindle is actually sticking through the crank on this other side, so we actually want to tighten this down until it starts to pull the spindle through the crank on the other side. We're going to go ahead and add the anti-seize or grease on the threads on to this bolt. I like to put a little bit on the underside of the head there, the flange. And then we're going to kind of tighten this thing up. Now you can do it the way I'm doing it, where I'm just spinning the crank. But this is not necessary. Now we're going to make this snug. And notice cranks are spinning good and there's no play. We still need to tighten down the pinch bolts, but again, I like to use grease or anti-seize on these bolts. Let's go ahead and use anti-seize. Grease would probably be a little bit better cosmetically, because you're going to be able to see this anti-seize in this crank, and if I used green grease, it wouldn't be as visible. So you actually want to make this snug, not too tight, not too loose. So that noise you're hearing is because the grease, it wasn't on everything, it wasn't on the threads, but as I was tightening it, the threads were getting some grease. We're going to go ahead and make sure that the chain wheel bolt here is good and tight, so we're going to give it a little oomph. Let's remove the pinch bolt on the other side of the crank. Add some of that wonderful anti-seize onto the threads. I like to get some on the underside of the head and then reinstall and then make it snug. And this, everybody, is a wonderful upgrade on a pretty cool bike. Alright, so now all we have to do is we have to install the chain. I have to tighten up the bearings on this wheel, so I wasn't concerned about getting the chain on in the beginning, but I'm going to go ahead and adjust this rear hub, and then we're going to pick some pedals for this bike. We need to unhook the brake. Now I'm going to see which side is getting loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm getting two 17mm wrenches, and I'm going to put some pressure on them, and I'm going to see which side moves. And normally it's always this freewheel side, which is the most difficult side. Oh man, thank goodness it's actually the non-drive side. So this is a little bit loose, so I'm going to just go ahead and tighten it up a little bit until I start feeling the bearings here. And then I'm going to get my 15mm cone wrench, and we're going to lock these two together to make sure that it's not going to accidentally back off again. So let's go ahead and get that good and snug. So there we are. Bearings turn easily and there's no play. Let's get some grease on these threads because they're kind of rusted. If they greased these in the beginning, these threads wouldn't be in this condition. Okay. Like I said, these threads would not be in this condition if they greased them in the beginning. All right, are we putting a new chain on this? It would be nice if we put a new chain. No, we're not. Okay. All right, let's get this tightened up. I'm going to tighten the drive side just a little bit. I'm going to check the chain. It's a little loose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that whenever I'm tightening up this non-drive side, that the wheel is a little closer to that side so that I can actually loosen this, push the wheel this way, and tighten up the chain. And now we're getting much better. There's loose spots, so let's tighten that up a little bit more. Make sure that the wheel looks straight in the frame, and thankfully it does look very good. We're going to tighten this down good. All right. We're going to go ahead and lubricate this chain. All right. Hook the brake back up. Oh, no, we need to replace this adjustment barrel. We're going to find a new barrel for this. I'll be right back. We have our brand new barrel adjuster here. Let's install it on the brake lever. Threading right on in. Install the cable. So much nicer. Now, let's find some really cool pedals for this bike. For this bike, we're going to actually use these really nice Mission pedals. These are polycarbonate pedals, very sturdy and a nice upgrade over his messed up pedals. So Now you want to be careful because there is a left and a right like we were talking about earlier. So we're going to go ahead and grease these threads. It is very important to grease, to keep your bike greased and oiled. It really does help with the longevity of the bike. So there should be an R and an L on this, which I'm not seeing it, but here's a little hint. If you're sitting on the bike, if you look down at the pedals, this one, it says Mission right there and Mission over here. It's not upside down. So this is a right pedal and this is a left pedal, which is simple if you really think about it. So the right side, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be turning or threading this in clockwise, and on the left side pedal we're going to be turning it counterclockwise. Come on, counterclockwise. And you want to get these pedals good and snug, and there's a reason why pedal wrenches are so long, because it's supposed to be pretty snug. So I'm holding onto the pedal and I'm back pedaling, and then same thing on the non-drive side. I'm putting the tool on the pedal, I'm back pedaling, making this good and snug. So get it good and tight. Give it a good oomph. And tighten the drive side as well. Get it good and tight. I'm going to double check on this side. Good and tight. Okay. Let's give this thing some air, and let's take it out for a test ride. We're airing the rear tire up to 50 because it goes up to 65. And the front tire, I'm not sure it'll actually air up. The rear tire had some air in it. The front does not have much. All right, I'm not hearing any hissing. Well, this might be an old beat up bike, but this is somebody's childhood right here. And you know what? These 3-piece cranks really make this bike look a lot better, because look at the difference between these two cranks. Look how much more substantial this crank arm is. And the funny thing is, it's not any heavier, because this crank arm right here is actually tubular chromoly steel. So it's a very sturdy material without being heavy. All right. Always like to take bikes out for a test ride, and it is nasty out here. Cranks feel good, nice and smooth and stiff. So I'm going to actually put this camera down and actually take it on a harder ride. Yeah, he's gonna like this. Well, guys, what do you think? Would you have spent $230 to get this ratty old Haro fixed? I think I would have, especially if this was my bike from whenever I was a kid, because this is, even though this is an old bike, even though it's a little ratty, it does need a little bit more work, but I'm sure the customer is going to take good care of it because, again, this is childhood memories, and he's 25 years old now, and he's just wanting to relive some of his youth. But yeah, leave a comment down below if you're wanting to see more stuff like this, or if you enjoyed it, if you didn't like it. Let me know. I try to answer all comments down below. But with that, let's go ahead and close this up. If you enjoyed the video, please leave us a big thumbs up. Don't forget to tell your friends. Check out some of the other videos on the corner of the screen. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you later. Thanks.